How you doing? This is John and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're going to look at Dazzler #1, which has the distinction of being the Marvel's first direct market comic book, meaning this did not go to the spinner racks and 7-Elevens. It went directly to comic book stores, so it had like a huge print run, huge circulation, and that's why the Diamond they did like a different shape just to distinguish it from newsstand comics. Pretty interesting cover by Bob Larkin, and we'll take a look. Well, for those of you, we'll talk about Dazzler's origin inside. But this is Dazzler, the Disco Dazzler. She, debuted among the height of the disco scene, and then this is, I guess, what fully adult Marvel artists and writers think of disco. So here was Alison Blair, the Dazzler. That's the Enchantress. She's a Thor's villain from Asgard. If you saw the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., her little sister Lorelei was in one of the episodes. That's Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler from the X-Men, Tony Stark, Iron Man from the Avengers, and Peter Parker, Spider-Man. We should know all that. But here, let's check out the comic itself. So here we have the goofy toys that you could get, and I just love these. It's Hercules wristband, snake nut can, unbeatable self-defense, red flasher light. Okay. Oh, a warning light only. Put that on your car. Okay, so let's look at this splash page. Okay. So bright this star, and Tom DeFalco, the writer, he became editor-in-chief of Marvel for a while. And he also wrote Spider-Girl. I wasn't too happy with his Fantastic Four run, and I wasn't too happy with him as the editor-in-chief in Marvel, but I did love Spider-Girl, believe it or not. John Romita Jr. is the penciler. I talked about John Romita Sr. a few times. His son obviously became a Marvel artist. Whose most famous creation was he was the co-creator of Hitman, if you've seen the movie. Alfredo Alcala, inker, phenomenal inker. He did the classic Alan Moore, John Taliban Swamp Thing run, which is just amazing. And Glynis Wynn, colorist, just a super phenomenal Marvel colorist, classic pen and brush and ink colorist. Joe Rosen, letterer. Louise Jones is the editor, and she later marries Walter Simonson, becomes Louise Simonson, and she becomes a phenomenal Marvel writer in her own right. Her two notable famous runs was X Factor and Power Pack. Amazing. And then Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. I keep talking about the Jim Shooter years were arguably the best Marvel years. Okay, conceived by Alice Bonneville, John Romita Jr., and Jim Shooter with some help from Stan Lee, Al Milgrom, Roger Stern, and Tom DeFalco. I don't know why Chris Claremont's not thrown in here, and John Byrne, because they created this character. But this is Alison Blair. She's the Dazzler. And she debuted in X-Men 129, around there. I'm not sure if that's the exact number. But the X-Men were looking for new mutants to bolster their ranks, and they found the Dazzler, and they also found Kitty Pryde. And the Dazzler's ability was she's a mutant who could convert energy forms. Specifically, she could convert sound into light. And she, what is she, early 20s, 21 years old, 22, around there. And she never really trained with her ability, so this is like, in a modern X-Men comic, she could fire lasers and stuff like this. But at this point, she could just turn ambient sound into light. The louder the sound, the brighter the light. And what it does is, in a disco club or whatever, she takes all that thumping bass and everything like that, and she converts it to like a psychedelic light storm that kind of like dazes you and confuses people. And, in her debut, her light storms actually like kind of like hypnotized you, and later on I don't know if they still do that, or if she could subtly manipulate it so it could just be blinding flashes that blind you, or so bright that they stun you, or they hypnotize you. So you're just dazzled. That's what they call it. So here she is. She's running out of a club. Look at the silly shoes that she wears. It's like made out of the same mirrors as like a disco ball. What is she saying? I'm gonna get wasted. I'm gonna get wasted. These goods have been dodging me since I left the disco. Now they're ready to pounce. So, and she runs into an alleyway, and she just sits on a garbage can. Look at her. She. Then you won't mind if I check my makeup. My heart's beating a wild tattoo, but I have to play this cool. This broad's crazy. Hey, what'd she slip it out of her bag? And she puts roller skates on her shoes and a transistor radio and reverberating a Pink Floyd song blares from the miniature radio. So they're playing the wall, and then with that ambient music, boop, 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 she's turning it into a light show. And this broad, she's some kind of supernatural freak. What's happening? I'm no witch turkey. I'm just your average everyday mutant, a regular child of the atom. And as you have may noticed, I transmute light into sound. Quiet night, and here comes Spider-Man. And, well, look at this, a little disco show. So she's just running around beating them up with garbage cans while they're dazed. So presumably she's immune to bright lights. I just thought of that now, but if she's seeing bright lights and not get blind, so I guess that's the side effect of her mutant power. Here's the fun factory ad. Oh, I didn't look at the indicia. What exact year is this? I have my suspicion, but I don't want to say because I know I'm going to be wrong. 1981, and I'm glad I didn't say it because I was going to say 83. 1981, geez. Okay, so let's get back to a story already in progress. So this jerk, get it together, guys. Light and music don't mean spit against slugs. You said it there. So here he's firing, and a ricochet, of course, takes out the radio because that's the way it works in comic books. Oh no, no radio, no lights. I could tap other forms of sound, but music is easiest with its controlled rhythm. So I vaguely remember it's because that's what she's interested in, and that's what she spent the most time with, and that's what she practiced with. But she could turn later on, she could turn any sound into light. And I think she's at the point where she doesn't even need sound, or maybe the writers just forgot that was her powers. So now the muggers are closing in, and here comes your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, just zipping in and taking everybody out. They're getting in the car, like big old 80s cars, big old sedan, and swack. And I love this. Just look at Spider-Man. He's just sticking to the ground. And look, he's, again, every time we see some old pictures of Spider-Man, I have to bring up, this is a powerful superhero. And I still, I already told you, in third grade, we took a poll, and a bunch of third graders decided that Spider-Man had the greatest superhero costume of all time. So that is perfectly good science, if you ask me. So there you go. That is the greatest superhero costume of all time. I love that. That is a great frame. Wouldn't you love to have that just hanging up on your wall? That is amazing. So he puts the car up against the pole, and now he's talking to Alison Blair. Actually, my latest manager of the owner of this posh disco has an underworld heavy. So she's trying. The owner of this disco is trying to force her to sign a pretty crummy royalty deal. And she didn't want to do it. So it had nothing to do with her being a mutant or anything like that. Just like, some mob boss wanted to chisel her out of her money. So hang in there, sweetheart. You have the talent. All you need is the time. Thanks, Spidey, for everything. Being a singing star has always been my one burning ambition. But chasing a dream can be lonely. So terribly, terribly lonely. Wah, wah, wah. So here's Allison at home. Look at that. If that's a Manhattan apartment, she's paying a fortune for that. So, no food in the fridge. What is she eating? Meatballs out of a box? Oh, Ritz crackers. Okay, that's a box of meatballs. Jeez. Look at this old-fashioned phone. Hanging on the wall, just calling people, and she's calling the X-Men because she's kind of doubting her musical aspirations. So she's like, "Hey, I'll join the X-Men." So here's some classic X-Men. Colossus, Peter Rasputin Colossus. That's at this time he's just Logan, and that's Wolverine. or Monroe, Storm. This is their classic costumes. This is my era of X-Men, without a doubt, and Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler. And then up in the control room, it's Kitty Pryde. And at this point, I think she was going by the name Sprite. Kitty will soon get her wish in X-Men 143 on sale this Christmas. Oh, I wish it was, yes, Sprite is worthy of being an X-Men. So she's kind of like a student. She's not really in the X-Men at this point. She gets promoted to the X-Men in 143. That was a great comic. That was the one with the Nagari demon. Yeah, that is a comic I should break out. So, of course, it's the Danger Room, and we all know whenever you're in Danger Room, things go wrong. It's like the holodeck on Next Generation. Colossus is being, crushed at testing, and then big old disc coming out and Wolverine slashing him up, and then lasers go out after him, and he bam, 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 and goes and he answers the phone. So who's calling? Somebody's calling the Danger Room and Kurt, Libby, I'm expecting a call from Elizabeth. I promised to take her to dinner and the cinema this evening. Calm down, Petey. This lovesick lummox. My claws are still extended. Kurt, get out of the way. Teleport before. Ouch. So, of course, they could take out the world, but they can't answer the phone. So Kitty Pryde's power is that she could phase. So she puts her molecules like out of sync, and she could float and walk through. She could hover and float down on the air and pass through objects, and that, and with the extensive physical training, she became a good martial artist, hand-to-hand combatant. And then she discovered that when she phases through machinery or electronics, more specifically, she could disrupt the electrons or whatever, and disrupt electronics, because they had to give her, like I keep saying, power creep happens. At first she could just phase through walls, and then she could disrupt electricity, and then she basically became like a ninja or whatever. But I just like to say that the sound of Nightcrawler falling went ka-thud. And her real name is Catherine Pryde. Everybody calls her Kitty Pryde, but Oro called her Kitten. And they kind of developed like a mentor-student relationship. And Storm answers the phone, and she's like, I think I want to be an X-Men. I'm down on the dumps, be an X-Men. And then Storm says, are you sure? If you become an X-Men, you could kiss your singing career goodbye. And she's like, oh, I didn't think of that. But it was just a cheap ploy to get the X-Men into this comic. She just go down the Rolodex and call all the superheroes. So now she's going through her past. There's her father. Everybody looked like Tony Stark back then. So she's singing and dancing in the room, and her father wants her to be a lawyer. It's like the jazz singer, like the jazz singer. So she gives up her father's trying to force her to become a lawyer, and she doesn't want to do it. So now she's, at a school dance, and she's happy to be everything. They talk her to get up on stage, and now she's singing. And there we go. Some grit, the Marvel 1981 calendar. And while she's singing, she doesn't realize it, but she's causing a laser show, and everybody's like, look, a light show. Far freaking out. Everybody's just happy, and she doesn't even know she's doing it, and nobody in the crowd knows she's doing it. And of course, lame 80s street thugs come in. Stop, you're not students, you can't go barging in here. Shut up, oh man. Kawap, kawap, kawap. So they're beating him, not because they're evil, but because he's wearing a purple striped outfit. And I can't really blame him. If you are wearing a purple striped outfit, you should get co-opted, right? So here they are. They're just wrecking everything. And, oh, these high school punks are heavy bleeders. Enjoy yourselves. The broad on stage belongs to me. So look, poor Allison. What is she? I don't know what year in high school it is. These monsters inflict pain and humiliation for the sheer savage joy of it all. I won't let them hurt me. I won't. So here she manifests her mutant ability. I mean, she already manifested it, but this is like first time she's doing it on purpose. And she just, resulting in a blinding blast of incredible brilliance. For 7 startling seconds, the wrathful radiance assaults senses and seared souls. Then mercifully unconscious came to him. So her lights, they always implied that her lights have some sort of like mental, emotional impact that cause, it's it's more than just blindness and stunning. It like overwhelms your brain and knocks you out or whatever. And all the thugs are going to the hospital. I'm a freak. I'm the monster. I don't know what I did, and and everybody's blind. Comic books for sale. Oh, this is Mile High Comics. This was Chuck Rosinski. He worked for Marvel Comics, and then he went out and I don't know if what exactly happened or how, but he bought a comic book collection in Denver, and they said there was so many comics it was a mile high, so it became the Mile High collection, and then he opened up Mile High Comics where it was a back issue vendor. If you are looking for back issues, they will have it, but you will pay the highest price. There you go. So she wants to be in a band. She's studying because she promised her father she'd give law school a try, and she's also practicing with the mutant powers. So she makes magna cum laude, and you'll be attending law school. I've chosen no daddy. For too many years, I've been split between law and music, your dream and my dream. I must be true to myself. Stop, I've heard enough. Go if you must. But don't expect my blessings or my forgiveness. The just typical, what is the word? Just stereotypical, I can't even think of the appropriate word. So here she is, roller skating and got makeup on and singing and lights and everything, and the Dazzler was born. And then she's, 2 years later, and where does she go from here? Well, you go to Asgard. So here we go to Asgard because, you got to get everybody to sell this comic. And the Rainbow Bridge, and here's the trolls, and where's that, Heimdall? Stand before, so the giants are trying to get past Heimdall, and Heimdall, he just beats them. Doesn't he look just like Idris Elba? Doesn't he just look just like him? So, the Golden Hall, and make it to, that's the Enchantress. That's what she does. She just lays all sexily and lustily in her throne, and I bid you welcome, warrior. Thou hast overpowered my guardians and violated my humble haven, yet I have suffered thy advent with some small amusement. So, arrogant, talks like a freak, and worshipping at her feet, and she's just toying with him. Oh, that wasn't Heimdall. Okay, there was just some warrior on the Rainbow Bridge. I just assumed it was Heimdall. So she turns him into a tree because she's cruel like that. Okay, and then so she's gone to a fountain to peer and scry in the future, and she finds out that there's like a source of energy, an interdimensional energy, that just happens to be in a disco. Okay, so it's on Midgard in a disco, and then she's got to go to this disco to harness this source of energy that the disco is built on. With friends like these, she's bound to have enemies. Dazzler. So this is a house ad for the actual comic that I'm showcasing right now. Here's the Marvel Wreath subscription rate. Look, solid slate of comics. SpiderMan, Avengers, Captain America, Defender. It's funny, I was looking for the Defenders and I stopped and I got Dazzler. I don't know why I can't find the Defenders. I keep pulling the wrong box. And I pull the same box over and over again. I guess whatever. So now here we're at the Avengers Mansion, because we got to get more guest stars to sell this book. So here's the Beast upside down reading the paper. And again, this is this era, like from like 76 to around here, when the Beast was in the Avengers. This is how I knew the Beast. The super science guy in the X-Men, that might as well be a different character to me, because he was more happy-go-lucky, girl-happy, comedy relief guy. And here, as he's jumping around, he almost hits Janet Van Dyne, and she shrinks down and turns into the Wasp. So she stings him in the ass, because that's what you should do to the Beast, sting him in the ass. So now she's flying around, and she's a fashion designer. So like every third time you see her, she's got a new costume. Some of them are better than the others. Yeah, Iron Man and Captain America doing superheroic stuff, and Hawkeye shows up, and the Beast shows up, and the Beast is going to go off to visit Alison Blair. I'll go visit my friends. The window. Why, you're the Beast. Somebody must have told you. I realize we haven't been formally introduced, but I got some news that'll make you love me forever, because that's not creepy. Unpack your underoos and get a rush at this. Singer mysteriously stricken. So, a singer at the disco falls ill, and he brings it to her because she couldn't read the newspaper herself, because that wouldn't have gotten the Avengers in a page or two to sell this comic. So the Beast has to do some creepy stuff. So she's showing up for an audition. Daredevil versus Johnny Punk. Okay, let's see what Johnny Punk looks like. Johnny Punk. I have to confess, I was the inspiration for Johnny Punk. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. If I was Johnny Punk and somebody threw fruit pies at me, there would be a mosh pit, pogo pit, and smashed fruit pies all over the place. Fruit pies are disgusting. So, of course, the Enchantress shows up. She wants the gig because there's MacGuffin power here at the disco. So she's being all sexy and seductressy and she sings, and of course, she's got to be good. She's got to be good. If she wasn't good, then it would been out of character. So +1 for Tom DeFalco. Looks like I got here in time. Stage your makeup and all. I'm ready to roll. But that mom is stiff competition. Look at this guy. He goes, "Pardon me, Mr. Wildfire, but now that she's finished, forget it, babe. You're looking at my news, but you haven't heard me yet. I'm the Dazzler. So sing already. You're only wasting your time." So now she sings, and she's using her own voice to activate her light powers, which is, I guess, pretty cool. "'Tis not sorcery, young songstress doth possess bewitching power all of her own." Well, let me think. "Speak thy choice, mortal. Enchanty, you are the finest specimen of womanhood I've ever laid eyes on. You could have my car, my house, me even. But Dazzler, your voice makes it all happen. You get the gig. Far out." Look at the Ace Frehley makeup from Kiss. So, "Never have I been so humiliated. Unthinking, unspeakable swine choose another over me? Over me?" Bam, crash. Gosh, look at what she's doing to my wall just by pointing at it. So she blasts her way out of the wall. "Terrible humans, let your hearts chill with the knowledge that I shall return. I shall. And on that day you shall both pay for this seemly affront dearly. Shall you pay." Next issue, where demons dare to dwell. So 31 pages. So that was the first issue of Marvel's The Disco Dazzler model kits. Pretty cool. I tried models as a kid, but I just wasn't skillful enough, and I didn't have the patience. Roman soldiers. $3 for Roman soldiers. I think they were like cardboard, like little cardboard standees. But that's the Dazzler. It was hokey, but it had its charms. I got the full run. I had to. I forget how many issues it lasted, but I don't know. It was pretty easy to collect comics when they were 50 cents, whatever. You know, even back then, 50. I remember telling myself that I was going to quit comics when they were 50 cents because they're just not worth it, and of course I didn't stop. But it didn't seem to be that much at the time. I never really felt like comics were too much. They seemed fair. I don't want to say worth it, but they seemed fair. And I bought way too many at the time because, like, I would get like $1. My mother would give me like $1 lunch money. So even if I bought a comic book a day, I still had enough to get something to eat. So comics, I thought they were definitely overpriced today. What are they, like $6? Who has $6 for a comic book? But this, like I said, this wasn't my thing. I bought it because the ties to the X-Men, and I was an X-Men completionist. And around this time, or a year or two later, yeah, there was comic book stores, obviously, because this was only sold in comic book stores. And I started to learn that if you waited a couple months, you could get like less popular titles like Dazzler in like a 25-cent bin. So half off, because the stores just had to move product, get it out of the store. And that's kind of what I did. there was two comic book stores near me, and they were kind of like rivals, and so I'd go to one, go to the other, and then later on, when I started driving, there was that opened up the door to a couple other comic book stores, and I would raid and I would get things like Dazzler. So I didn't collect this on a month basis. I definitely got the number one when it came out. Maybe I got like the first three, I don't remember, but then I would just get the back issues in cheap quarter bins and stuff like that. It wasn't important enough to me to make sure that I read it in order and got it on time and stuff. Not like X-Men or Avengers or Fantastic Four where I had to get it. But it was fun. It was kind of hokey, but yeah, it shows the concept of the character. She never really stuck, she never had her great story. Every writer kind of tweaked her powers and they never really got her. It was like the Scarlet Witch. Nobody ever understood her, but I don't understand her powers to this day. So there you go. It's hard to make a comic book. I don't think Dazzler could hold her own comic. There you go. It was just the disco novelty, and the fact that it was the very first Marvel direct to comic book stores comics. So it kind of ran on that gimmick. So there you go. It was a fun title. You could get these dirt cheap in back issue bins if you want. So it's kind of a product of its time. It's fun. All right. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm having a blast going through all these old comics and talking about them and goofing on them and getting nostalgic. It's a lot of fun for me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.